The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, my name is Mike Willett with the National Native Network, a program of the Intertribal Council of Michigan. Welcome to the NNN webinar series on cancer risk reduction in Indian country. This webinar is titled Running Medicine, a Mind, Body, and Spirit Approach to Wellness. This technical assistance webinar is being hosted by the National Native Network with Indian Health Service Health Promotion and Disease Prevention, which offers technical assistance and resources for commercial tobacco and cancer prevention and control throughout Indian country, and the Indian Health Service Clinical Support Center. Your presenter today is Dr. Anthony Fleg, Running Medicine Director at UNM, an Associate Professor, and Native Health Institute. In 2008, he earned his MD from UNC Chapel Hill, and in 2008, he also earned his MPH at UNC Chapel Hill. Anthony is a family physician who believes in the healing power of movement and exercise. With this, he created Running Medicine in 2016, a unique, culturally grounded approach to mind, body, and spirit wellness. No commercial interest was used to fund this activity. This activity is designated one contact hour for nurses and physicians. To obtain a certificate of continuing education, you must be registered for the course, participate in the webinar in its entirety, and submit a completed post-webinar survey. Surveys will be emailed out within about an hour after the presentation. By the end of this webinar, participants will be able to employ aspects of a successful walking and running program in Indigenous communities, and integrate self-efficacy toward getting patients and communities exercising. If you have any questions today, please feel free to post your questions into the chat box. Post your questions into the chat box, and Dr. Fleg will be monitoring that as the presentation rolls on. Questions will be answered also during the last few minutes of the webinar. And now at this time, I'm going to throw it over to Dr. Fleg.
Good morning and good afternoon, relatives, brothers and sisters, east to west. I'm excited and honored to be leading a conversation today on movement and the healing power of movement. And I think I wanted to start with something a little bold. I can't see you all and you can't see me, but we're about 300 of us. So think of like a really nice big auditorium that's packed. And we're gonna actually do a little movement here. So this is on honor code that you're gonna work with me. But why start an hour on running and walking and the power of movement any other way? So if you wouldn't mind, just push back from your desks for those that are calling in at work, wherever you are, and I want you just to stretch up for a moment, nice and high to the sky. Feel a little bit of awakening of some of those muscles that go to sleep as we sit in chairs a lot of our day. Give thanks for the morning and the gifts that Wednesday has already brought you and will bring you this afternoon. If you would like to kind of shake your arms out and put them down by your side, just kind of shake out any tension in your shoulders, upper back. If you feel something that you just kind of need to let go of energetically, it's not serving you, just kind of shake vigorously until you feel that kind of move from your head, your neck, down your arms, elbows, forearms, wrists, fingers, and literally kind of dripping from the fingers. All right. I'm going to ask you to do a few jumping jacks with me in place, and even if your coworkers are going to look at you funny, let's go for it. How about 10 jumping jacks. I think it looks like you're ready. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, maybe a bead or two of sweat by now. Shake out your arms a little bit more. Think of 2 or 3 things just for a moment that you're grateful for. Maybe it's been a rushed morning for you and you haven't been able to properly give thanks for the day. And I'm fine if you want to run in place as you listen today, walk in place, whatever's good for you. So as Mike mentioned on the beginning of the call, I am going to try to make this pretty interactive, and the chat box is what I'm just going to kind of look at. I probably won't answer questions immediately as they come in, but we'll try to leave about 20 minutes at the end for questions. And my contact info is here on this first slide, afleg@salud.unm.edu. It'll be on the last slide as well, and I look forward to lots of follow-up conversations. I also will just point out that we put 2 handouts. One is like a PDF version of this presentation, and the second is an article that came out 2 weeks ago in the Annals of Family Medicine, a very respected family medicine journal. It was actually our first peer-reviewed article on this running medicine program. So to start us today, I'm going to have you take a look at a 4-minute video that gives you a little better sense, I think, of what running medicine is than anything I can say in introductory words. Right. That the last person speaking there was me on the video, and with that, I'm going to try to advance slides. Mike, can you give me control of the slide deck, please?
Okay, give it a shot now.
Yeah.
Bring it down to the left corner. There you go.
Okay, sounds good. So, again, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be, whether morning or afternoon. My dilemma is very simple. I am a person who just kind of knows movement as a very strong and effective medicine, both as a family doctor and both even more importantly, personally. Here's a cute little picture. I have 4 wonderful children, and this is my oldest some years back, running in her little tutu. And, you know, if I could just think of a picture of what my family does, it's movement. We don't own a TV. We move together. We run, we hike, we walk, not always competitive, but movement. At the same time, I can't get enough of my patients to move enough, and I would say that in a bigger sense, caring about, you know, public health and population health, that I can't, I don't see a society that we have built, both in Indian country and in the US, that really makes movement easy. We have a society that actually makes it often difficult to even find where the stairs are in a hospital or in a building. So I wanted to touch on 3 just kind of bigger picture, you know, issues, realities that kind of do ground our work. And the first is that, you know, as a population health, community health physician, and just as a community activist and organizer, I feel that we really are directing far too much of our energy, resources, et cetera, to the very downstream, the dialysis centers, the diabetes treatment centers, the cancer treatment. And we really need a focus that is much more upstream, looking at what causes these conditions. And so just as a quick example of that, you know, 2 things related to movement and why we are getting people moving with running medicine are both overweight and obesity and inactivity. So when you look at overweight and obesity, you know, I'm not aware of a single cancer that does not have being overweight and obese as a risk factor for that cancer. And, you know, both in Indian country and in all throughout the US, these rates continue to rise. You know, as just an example, if you look at this first statistic, if I told any of us that there's one thing that we could do that's really actually doable that would prevent 1 out of 10 cases of cancer in women and about 1 out of 25 cases in men, that's you'd probably be on the edge of your seat to hear what could we do to actually you know, prevent those cases of cancer. And you look at the bottom statistic, compared to other countries, we are unfortunately number 1 in the highest percentage of cancer in a given country that's attributable to overweight and obesity. And the US struggles on a global sense in terms of our rates compared to other, for instance, European nations. And secondly, inactivity in cancer. So specifically the risks of not being active enough as a risk for cancer in the first place, but then also a risk once you have cancer for how you do with that cancer. And so the meta-analyses show somewhere in a 12 to 24% range for these three really common colorectal, breast, and cervical cancer. 12 to 24% increased risk if you're not active versus the people that are most active. And I found kind of an interesting statistic that looking particularly at breast cancer recurrence and death from breast cancer and death from any cause. So these are women that already had breast cancer, 40 to 50% lower risk if instead of just pushing cancer drugs and it's uncommon for cancer patients to be really counseled heavily on the benefits, the medicine of them starting to move. But the data is really clear that that should be where our focus is. So second big picture issue is that unfortunately our Indigenous communities, our families in our Indigenous nations live sicker and die younger. And we don't focus at all in running medicine on statistics, and we don't give talks on diabetes or cancer, but it is a reality that we need to think about how to address, and I don't think our medical model gives us the answer. I think it gives us a model for once people are sick, how to take care of them. But I'm more excited, and I hope you are, as a just sign of you being on this call, in how do we keep people from being sick in the first place. Thirdly, just more pertinent to where I am in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but probably in many of your communities as well, the opportunities for low-cost, family-oriented, and culturally tailored exercise in Albuquerque, particularly for Native Americans, is not there. And a recent statistic that I saw was that 1/3 of families who earn $50,000 or less, these are not necessarily Native families, but 1/3 of them cite cost as the biggest hindrance to getting their kids into organized sports. And so when our kids aren't moving, they're probably sitting at a screen, a tablet, a video game, controller. They're probably, while they're doing that, munching on junk food. And guess what? Their parents are probably also not moving. So I think it's really important to provide exercise opportunities that are affordable, and in some of our tribes, even zero cost, but then also that, incorporate cultural aspects. They don't seem, kind of foreign to our Native communities. And that's going to look different in our tribes in Alaska versus our tribes in the Dakotas versus our tribes in the Northeast versus tribes here in the Southwest. So in addition to my work as a physician, I have helped run a, pun intended there, a love-funded partnership called the Native Health Initiative. And I just will mention that if this talk today sparks some ideas you might have about what you might do and what you want to do and what you're already thinking of doing in your community, when the vision came to start running medicine, it wasn't immediately apparent where it would fit, but it made perfect sense to link it to an already existing nonprofit and kind of a win-win situation. Some of the things we do that aren't getting as much press and aren't as newsworthy, things like pipeline development programs within Native Health Initiative to get more Native youth into health careers. Well, they benefit from having running medicine as part of the nonprofit. Similarly, a lot of the funding that we've been able to get has been because of being linked to a nonprofit that wouldn't be there if we were not connected. So just thinking strategically of how you build programs into already existing networks so that you can ultimately make it low cost and you can not spend 80% of your energy fundraising, and that's been just a really good thing for us. This just gives you a little breakdown from roughly 4 years ago, where I'm exercising myself. I was actually on a bike ride, and just suddenly, a kind of vision that is very different from, strategic planning meetings and anything like that. Just suddenly a vision is there of what I think we can do, kids from 0 to 100 years old running, walking together, all speeds, culture and language, and mind, body, spirit, wellness kind of fused into a running and walking program. Very quickly kind of gathered a great group of people together who said, yeah, we believe in this. This sounds like something we want to also be a part of. And this very week, if you look at the bottom there, we will celebrate our 550th running medicine celebration. We don't call them practices because we are far beyond, a sports team kind of approach. And but our 550th celebration is this Saturday. If anyone wants to take a plane flight out here to New Mexico, we have fun. We play together. A university professor that was out with us in the last week shared that, this made him get back to being a kid again and being able to just play. And the sacredness of play has been a huge theme for our work. So running definitely is a cultural strength and asset, and I probably don't need to spend too much time on this. On the right is one of our elders who's part of running medicine doing a prayer run with his family for a gentleman that they lost in their family. On the left, just an example in our area, the Bears Ears National Monument that's been under attack in the current president's administration. And instead of the other ways of protesting, running as an actual way to protect sacred land and stand for what we believe in. This quote, I think, says a lot in a very short bit of time. All of my work, all of NHI's work is really strength-based and asset-based. We look at what beautiful things are there and how we can grow those as opposed to focusing on the negative. And yes, running is one of those historical gifts that we need to revive in some cases and remind in other cases that it's there and it's there for all of us. And it doesn't take a whole lot of infrastructure to run and walk. It doesn't take a new gym. It doesn't take safety pads. It's such a beautifully simple gift from Creator. This is just a statement of who we are, a core belief that running and exercise are beautiful and potent medicines for mind, body, and spirit, better than anything I can prescribe for my patients in the pharmacy. I often get asked in health circles, Dr. Fleg, is running medicine a disease prevention program? And I will staunchly answer, nope, not at all. We're a life promotion program. We do not focus on disease or disease prevention. And I bet a lot of people calling into this call that might strike them a little bit as strange. And for instance, you might work in a diabetes prevention program. I would propose that we can do more for our communities and our brothers and sisters by giving them a glimpse of what true health and true wellness, mind, body, and spirit looks like, as opposed to scaring them into thinking that we can scare them into health by telling them, if you don't run, you're prone to get diabetes. I think that our approach is really not in any way disease focused and is more about a culture of wellness and abundance. And I think people truly feel that when they come out to play with us, to run with us, to walk with us. These are a few of the ways that we kind of describe ourselves. I was on a nice long run this morning, and the line that came to me as I was thinking about today's call was bringing love to the world through walking and running. But these are some other ways that we describe ourselves. And like I said, we play. If you want to take one fun thing from this call, anytime you take like a group picture, even if it's your IHS facility, make sure you replace. You can do the funny picture, but do a jump picture, because they're some of our best pics that we take, are people jumping in the air. Going back to the beginning, you know, one of the scary things with anything, as good as it may sound to you and to the people that you share the vision with, you kind of wonder, is it actually going to work? Are people actually going to be interested in this? And so that was our situation about 3.5 years ago, March 2016. And a very good omen that 70 folks showed up. This was the opening day at one of our public parks. Again, being in an urban setting, you know, has some pluses and minuses, maybe compared to being in a more rural tribal setting. But either place, there are beautiful, beautiful places to run and walk that may need to be rediscovered. I know of, you know, some kind of running activists that are you know, trying to recreate trails that used to connect villages, for instance, in the Hopi communities of Arizona, and that, you know, that the trails are gone if we stop walking and running on them. They are no longer, you can't find them. So just thinking about traditionally in your communities where running and walking was done, and places that may have even a kind of bigger cultural meaning that you can use as a basis for your work to get people active. We didn't start out huge. The initial group of 70, you know, dwindled a little bit, and this was what we looked like in spring 2016. We added a competitive youth team, and that immediately grew the numbers from, you know, an average of about 30 in summer 2016. We were now averaging 90 by the later part of the fall season 2016. And so I would say that, you know, giving youth and adults some real focus to work toward, it could be a race that happens in your community, is not a bad thing. I think everyone has a competitor in them. I think everyone loves being pushed to goals that even to them initially might seem intimidating. I think the challenge is to do that, and to have, in a picture like this, marathon runners along with people who are just trying to walk a mile for the first time in a decade, is really just about the inclusivity and the loving approach and the cultural approach that we're here to do something very different than just run workouts that kind of make, you know, people who aren't as fit yet or aren't as fast feel like this isn't for them. And we do not lose our elders and our you know, slowest and least fit runners. They stick with us. If anything, I think some of our most fit runners say, you know, I might need to go elsewhere. And of the two groups, I'd much rather lose the people that are going to run anyway. But a lot of those people also stick around us, and they're gaining some different things. They're learning how to see running much more as a holistic wellness part of their life, as opposed to just something competitive. So yeah, having goals is not a bad thing. It sometimes is something we feel like is going to intimidate people, and we should shy away from it. So I'm going to take a pause just for a second and just remind you, I'm not seeing anything on my end on the chat board, but if anyone has kind of some questions or thoughts that any of this has brought up, please throw them at me. I'm just about done with my part. I will say I don't have a whole lot in here about the actual specifics. So in that video you watched, you saw a running medicine opening ceremony. We open our seasons with really more of a ceremonial approach. We have a lot of things integrated into running medicine that really make, you know, this running and walking much more communal than maybe what you would normally think of. And as an example, we send people out for, you know, on a given day, 30 to 40 minutes, and we choose places that are very accessible, even for those with canes, walkers, wheelchairs, baby strollers. We also choose places that there's a lot of room for interactivity. So I might say, okay, it's a half-mile loop around this park. The runners are going to go left, the walkers are going to go right, and then for the next 30 and 40 minutes, doesn't matter how many loops you make, no one's getting left behind. Everyone's giving high fives as they pass each other, and you can turn, you know, running and walking into something beautifully communal. And has been, I think, one of the ways that we make people immediately feel a part of this, as opposed to, you know, a person who shows up who's never felt that they were fit or never really felt good about their body or their weight. And they need to be shown a model that is different because they're used to gym class and every other you know, place that they've never felt like they belonged. So, and we play a lot of games. We play a lot of just kind of interactive, fun games, and, you know, 1-year-olds and 90-year-olds and everyone in between. We don't separate the youth and the adults until we actually get to some of our workouts where, you know, we separate the youth partially because it gives mom and dad a chance to get their medicine. And this might be the only 30 or 40 minutes of the day where they're truly not slaving for work and their family, and this gives them a chance to exercise and not kind of babysit. And we have no adults sitting on the side. You aren't allowed in the running medicine culture to sit on the side or sit in your car while you drop off your kids to exercise. Everyone moves together. You might move at a different speed from your children or your grandchildren, but you move. And we definitely have many families with 3 generations exercising together. And then on the way home, sharing about it. It's a very different thing, I think, for the whole family to do something like this together, in terms of how it might influence that family that's going through trauma or has lost a loved one or is just trying to find healthier ways to do things as a family together, or how to change how they're eating to something that is more health promoting. I think it happens much more in this kind of model than it does a youth team model where mom and dad sit in the truck while the kids go out and play soccer or run. So just a few last kind of things. We definitely have a lot of people excited about this. We have currently 5 different running medicine groups, about 500 per season signing up in Albuquerque. Last night, you know, in 2 different parts of the town, we held running medicines, probably about 150 people between those 2 locations. So a lot of people. It's very exciting when you start having the numbers that we have, because there's somewhat at everyone's level when you get to that number, and it just feels like, you know, the place to be. We have a lot of partners, including IHS and HPDP, and I just want to shout out Teresa Clay, who locally here in Albuquerque has been amazing to work with, and a tremendous support through the HPDP program. You can't give people $500, $700 of value for, you know, $30 a year if you don't have a tremendous partner. So definitely the power of we has really been key to our work. Over 90% of our participants, when we survey them, say that running medicine is effective for improving their mental, physical, and spiritual health. So again, a mind, body, and spirit kind of approach that seems to be working without really many lectures and talk. We don't, again, talk about diabetes or suicide or anything like that, but we just show people a glimpse of what health looks like. One of the 4th, I think, aspect that's important to note is that people are consistently telling us that the social support, and that came out a little bit in 1 or 2 of the comments in the video that you saw, the social support, the feeling of being part of a community, particularly here in Albuquerque, where, you know, 100+ tribes are represented in our Indigenous community that's probably about 50,000 strong, but removed from tribal communities, and that close-knit kind of sense of belonging. The city can often make people really feel lost and feel like they're floundering. So this is a place where they can be really proudly Indigenous and join with other people, native and non-native. I didn't mention that, but, you know, our program, you can't do kind of love grounded work and say you're okay now, you can't, you don't have a CIB. So we invite everyone and have a very diverse group in our Albuquerque group. Some of our other groups that are more based in tribal communities are a little less, you know, they're a little more just the tribal community. But I think running medicine really works well when you have an open arms approach. Anyone who is in your community, in the border towns that might surround a reservation, invite. In that sense, running and walking becomes something that just brings people together. here's a picture of one of our kind of circles. You know, we call our meetups, they're celebrations. And if you look at a picture like this, so when we are done running and walking, we take a moment, someone maybe shares something beautiful that they saw on that day's run, a hawk or something that's really changed for them since they started doing running medicine. And then we do a handshake line where one person who starts it turns to their left, says thank you for your medicine today, and goes through the entire circle, and every single person shakes every single other person's hands. And it's really like the way that many traditional ceremonies are closed. You never walk away thinking that you did this for yourself or by yourself. And so just simple ways that we can take something like running and walking and make it very much relate to traditional medicine and traditional ceremony is important. And we've done that at every single running medicine. Some of my biggest challenges, I won't talk a whole lot here. The third one, trying to live many lives, and those who might know me on the call are probably some of the people who do ask me things like, when do I sleep? You know, I have to fit in 25 hours or so a week to direct running medicine that is not in my paid job, and does take away from sleep and other things I would do in life. I do running medicine with my family. My wife and 4 kids are always there with me. So it's something we do together, and almost all of our running medicine leaders who are all volunteering do it with their families. So that's a good thing. It's not pulling us away. But that first bullet, you know, it's been really challenging, to be honest, to get medical people, my medical colleagues, to really see this as a viable approach to wellness. And, you know, given that the data is so clear on how powerful running and walking and movement and exercise are, I'm just kind of continuously baffled and a bit disappointed by the medical community's inability to see something like this as a positive adjunct. I will just mention real quickly, we're trying something where we have a voucher system, and basically the way this works is any health professional, nurse, dentist, provider, etc., sees someone and feels that they or their family would benefit from running medicine, so they can give them a voucher that gives that person a reduced fee for the running medicine season. And so instead of $15, it's $10. And so just something to try to actually address that first challenge there. How do I get my medical community more excited to refer people instead of putting them on more medicine that's not working, and that approach. And then I'm just gonna show you a couple quick pics. We have some pretty fast little racers. We actually are a pretty well-respected competitive racing team. It's not necessarily our focus. Our focus is on fun and family and the families of these kiddos running and walking with them, but it has been exciting to have that competitive focus. And again, I think we wouldn't be quite in the same place that we are if we hadn't jumped into that. We do a lot around food as medicine. We have done some 6-week series, for instance, with challenges. This is a native chef showing some quick and easy ways to prepare healthy kind of snacks, and food as medicine has definitely been an important part. We do a lot with our local tribes and communities. This picture here is from the Pueblo of Laguna, and a run and walk that was promoting drug and alcohol-free lifestyles. So places where running and walking has been used to do something kind of greater. We're jumping ahead and making sure that we're at the table. Teresa Clay, who I mentioned earlier, actually nominated us for this really big National AmeriCorps Award. I want to point you to one of our leaders, Danielle, who you see here, goes to this fancy black tie gala in her running medicine singlet and some native jewelry. Pretty amazing bling bling there. So, and then just 2 weeks ago, again, the article that's linked here, our first peer-reviewed article on running medicine in the Annals of Family Medicine Journal. And you're welcome to take a look at that. So with that, my brothers and sisters, movement definitely is medicine, and running and walking are great ways to get people to the table, and a lot of other things start happening once you get them to show up. No one can say to you, you know, I can't walk, I can't run. Very few people can say that. And so I would say, as opposed to some other things, like if we wanted to do exactly what we're doing through volleyball, I'm probably going to get a lot of people who just aren't into volleyball. But I think running and walking, and particularly because there's a cultural aspect to movement and running in many of our Indigenous communities, are a great way to get people to the table. The sacredness of play and really learning from our kids, I think, is a big part of it. When you create an environment that's all three of these, inclusive, loving, and fun, some pretty amazing things start to happen. And you don't need to focus on BMIs or blood sugars or anything else disease-oriented. People are getting healthier. Not shying away from sacred and spiritual and cultural aspects of what we do, and not just doing it for the launch, but then 2 months later, it looks exactly like any other running and walking program in a non-native community. It really, really deeply believing in the importance of bringing elders to open with prayers, bringing traditional stick games and other traditional ways that running was incorporated into what you do is super important. And with that, I appreciate all of y'all being on the call. I do want you just to take a look at this slide. If this inspires you today, we would absolutely be happy and have served as a consultant for different communities, from Native American programs in university settings to tribal programs that may feel like either by phone or by bringing us to your community that we could help you spark some real movement. And we are excited to chat with you. We do each October have a call for new running medicine groups. You do not need to be in the Southwest, but you do need to, in that application, show us that you are really serious and have done some initial groundwork on who might be some of your leaders, what the infrastructure is going to look like. And that will be posted on our website, which is runningmedicine.org. Just one word, runningmedicine.org. And again, my contact info is there, so you're welcome to ask me any questions that you have. I'm going to open it up now for questions that have come in. I don't see anything on the chat line, Mike, but you are welcome to share with me what people are
asking. So we do have some questions that came in the question box. This one here says that as the webinar was kicking off, this is already the best webinar I've been to. Great intro. So they were saying congratulations and thank you for the warm up, I guess, beforehand. This next question here says, who said the quote? Yes, we have trauma historical gifts, but we also have historical gifts, etc.
That's that. First of all, thank you for the first comment, and start all your meetings with a little movement. I actually hold a lot of my meetings in all areas of life, not just running medicine, are done either over a run or over a walk. The president of the Navajo Nation has been super supportive of our work, President Jonathan Nez, and every time President Nez and I meet, we meet for an hour run. We do not sit at a coffee shop. So to the second point, it's that quote I attribute to a lot of people who've kind of contributed their kind of thoughts. And I think I just kind of tried to paraphrase, encapsulate what I hear people saying, and not necessarily to one person.
Awesome. And this next question here says, where do we find the details on how we can provide this program in our community?
Great. And that question probably was given before I got to that last slide. So again, if I first of all would ask a more important first question, which is running medicine the kind of best fit for my community. And if you say, you know, this inspires me to really think of what our version of running medicine will be in our tribe, but it's not necessarily linking with us, that's great. And that might be, again, where we could serve as a consultant. Thanks, Mike, for putting the slide up. You know, more official, if you're really thinking, yeah, let's try to do something in 2020. In October, we'll accept applications for new running medicine groups. That is the official way to become a running medicine group. At this point, you know, our model is that we want to directly support the groups that are calling themselves running medicine. That may move in years to come to something that's more like a do-it-yourself, you know, handbook on how to do running medicine, and take it and make it your own. But right now, the official way would be apply in October through runningmedicine.org. And you know, even if it's a group that if we got 50 applications, we're not probably staffed at the moment, and in a love-funded partnership to support 50, but we definitely would figure out with groups that we're not able to support in 2020, kind of other ways to support them getting moving. So really good question.
Excellent. And then if anybody has questions, we are going through them here pretty quick. We have a lot of them that have just loaded up recently. But go ahead and type them into the question box, and we'll answer whatever we can before the top of the hour. We want to make sure to cut off before the top of the hour, just to respect everybody's time at work here. Let me see. This person here says, how did you get how did you get discounted shoes for participants, and how much were they?
Mike, read a few for me, and I'll just try to answer them in a batch.
Okay. This one here also says, is there a way to incorporate healthy eating education or healthy food access into running medicine?
Okay, give me one more.
I noticed traditional and cultural dancing in the video. Do you also incorporate dance as part of your running practice as another form of expression and interaction?
Man, you all are asking some high-level questions. So the $20 shoe is a really simple, amazing partnership that this one shoe store in our community has probably donated close to $100,000 in kind, called Heart and Soul. I should just shout them out. And basically, these are shoes that they didn't sell, that they bring out to our participants who I'm trying to get into running and walking for maybe the first time, and I can give them $120 pairs of shoes for 20 bucks. It's just one of those. It's a win-win. The store doesn't lose anything, and we are able to get people into really nice gear without them having to pay a lot. The second question was a really good one. So when I remember that very first March 12th running medicine, kind of joking how we were gonna, you know, politely, lovingly shame people who come out with junk food and their 44-ounce sodas and whatnot. And then I thought, you know, that's a silly approach. Why not just promote what we believe in? So every running medicine has a fresh, big, you know, jug of water, sometimes flavored with mint or lemon or cucumber, and fresh fruit. Very simple. Always there. We're a zero waste program and nonprofit. So bring your own reusable water bottle, have some fresh water, have, you know, some grapes or watermelon or fresh apricots from someone's tree. And so we just try to promote, you know, what we want to see, and that we never see junk food. We never see processed foods. We never see sugary drinks out at running medicine, because we're providing, you know, the alternative. The last part, we are very inclusive. You know, we, for instance, have tribal communities where we are starting running medicines, and they may have active youth football, you know, flag football and soccer leagues. And we're really clear that, like, running medicine doesn't need to compete with those and try to draw youth from other sports or draw people from dance and anything else. We are really trying to promote movement in all of its ways. We'll have native, Zumba leaders, for instance, come and do a warm up for us and introduce people to Zumba or yoga or other ways of movement. And one of our running medicine leaders recently, we do a lot of core strengthening at the end of the running medicines, and so she did core strengthening but related it back to traditional duties in her pueblo of carrying pottery that was filled with water on your head, and how you needed a tight midsection. And so even just something as foreign as core strengthening being related to cultural activities and traditional ways is a beautiful thing. And I think all of us have that creativity of connecting those dots.
Excellent. And then we do have a webinar coming up this coming Wednesday, again, 1 week from today, titled Food is Medicine, Clinical-Led Food Security Initiatives in Navajo Nation. You can feel free to go to keepitsacred.org to register for the webinar, and the details are on the screen right now. This question here says, did you do any participant surveys, gather data? If so, what data or surveys were used?
And give me 2 more, brother.
And this one says, I'm excited to hear this information. I have a sister who has diabetes and is now a below-the-knee amputee. She is waiting for a prosthetic. She has been grieving about losing her leg. I think something like this would be great for her. I think it would be appropriate for her, even a prosthetic. Hopeful. So just sharing her story there. And this person here says, have you reached out to other programs to stress the importance of primary prevention? For example, the Special Diabetes Program for Indians.
Great questions. To that last one, I just wrote a proposal today in one of our local tribes to do exactly, to use SDPI monies for movement. So yes, very, very much. I mentioned the challenge of getting our medical community and even our kind of grant funded ways that direct us. Well, here's what the grant wants us to do, and so we're going to think that way and do that way, and that might not be really prevention and upstream kind of thinking. So absolutely, we're a we effort. We don't in any way, hold proprietary what we do. We're absolutely excited to share with other folks. I appreciate the sister who shared just her own family's kind of experience. And yeah, I think people that have lost hope in different ways are some of the biggest kind of success stories in running medicine. I mean, I love the people that used to wear an XL that now wear a medium. There are definitely a lot of those that are more like the visible weight loss and fitness and et cetera. But people that just tell us, running medicine has really opened up joy and gratitude and has left behind sorrow and grieving and just worrying every day that I'm heading toward death because of my health and my family's health. A family that I think of immediately, they started coming to running medicine really regularly. All of a sudden I asked them, what was going on? Did they lose a bet or something? And they said, no, we lost our grandpa in the family, and running medicine for us as parents and for our kids has probably been the one thing that has really kept us, has been important for our working through this death. And the process of this has just been being out here and moving with y'all. And that other question about data collection, definitely we do have an IRB approved study that we haven't gone through the data just yet. We've otherwise just had some really simple surveys that are not too intrusive and just kind of ask people to rate different aspects of running medicine and how it has or has not been effective for their own health and wellness. So I think you can do that kind of data collection pretty easily and without a whole lot. All of us who work in Indian country know that the real more extensive data where, for instance, running medicine is thinking about looking at like before the season and after the season BMI and body fat and a 1 mile fitness test and things like that. But that's a little more extensive, and we're going to get there, but we're not at that point yet in terms of data collection. I really appreciate all the, best thing for a teacher is to receive insightful questions like every single one of those that Mike read off. And so I appreciate it. If you didn't get your question answered and you need to send follow-up, again, my email is very much there to share. Do you want to entertain maybe one or two more, or is that it, Mike?
Yeah, let's maybe do one more. This person here says, I noticed on the website for running medicine you have wellness grants. Are those good for any Indigenous group nationwide or just in New Mexico? Also, is there a way we can donate to the cause to maybe help scholarship those who have barriers of finance, or to additionally help the movement for you there?
That is an awesome question to end our morning. As I'm answering it, would everyone just shake out their arms a little bit again and make sure that if anything I said stressed you, that you leave this call less stressed than you started. So I should have had that on this last slide, that we do have these wellness grants. We're really interested in funding in the couple $100 region. So just to give you realistic how much the grants usually be, we're interested in funding efforts that really use running and walking to promote deeper healing and cultural healing. And so again, the example that I showed of a run and walk that was intentionally there as a prayer run, really to say no more to addiction in our community is a perfect example. And we would love to absolutely accept donations. We have on the front page of the website, if you go to the bottom, is a PayPal donation. And if you wanted it to be earmarked to youth scholarships or scholarships for people that attend running medicine but can't pay, you're welcome to donate there. And great question. And so yeah, there's no geographic limitation to either who can be a new running medicine group. Just so happens that our groups right now have been in the Southwest, but if you're in Michigan, if you're in Maine, if you're in Florida, and you'd like to put in a proposal, please do. And similarly for the wellness grants, those have definitely gone all over the country.
Fantastic. And if there's any additional questions, or if we didn't quite get to yours yet, Anthony's email address, Dr. Fleg's email address, is on the screen right now. Again, we do have a webinar again coming up 1 week from today on October 2nd, and you can register for that at our website, keepitsacred.org, and follow us on social media. We will be issuing out a post-webinar evaluation in about an hour, so keep an eye on your email addresses for that. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you very much, everybody, and have yourselves a great day.